The morning sun cast long shadows across the broken streets of New Seoul. Captain Lee Tae-ho stood on the roof of what used to be the Global Command Center. The building was cracked and burned, like everything else in the city. Smoke rose from 1,000 fires. The smell of metal and death filled the air. Tae-ho checked his weapon one last time. The plasma rifle hummed with power. His combat suit showed red warnings all across the display. Low power, damaged armor, no backup coming. He was the last one left. Below him, the alien machines moved through the ruins. The Vextar had been on Earth for 10 years now. Their crystal ships had appeared in the sky one day without warning. No message, no demands. They just started killing. At first, humanity fought back. Earth's armies were strong. The space fleet was powerful. But the aliens were stronger. Their weapons cut through human ships like paper. Their ground forces crushed every defense. City after city fell. Tae-ho had watched it all happen. He had fought in every major battle. He had seen his friends die. He had watched entire planets burn. Now he was the last soldier of Earth's Defense Corps still fighting. The alien drones spotted him. They looked like giant spiders made of black crystal. Their red eyes glowed as they climbed up the building toward him. Tae-ho smiled grimly. At least he would go down fighting. He opened fire. The plasma bolt struck the first drone and shattered it into pieces. The second one leaped at him. Tae-ho rolled to the side and fired again. Another hit. Another kill. But there were too many. They kept coming. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. His rifle was getting hot. The power meter dropped lower and lower. A drone got close enough to strike. Its claws raked across his chest armor. The suit's shields sparked and failed. Warning alarms screamed in his ears. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. Tae-ho kept fighting. He had no choice. This was what he was trained for. This was what he lived for. To protect humanity. To never give up, even when there was no hope left. He thought about his family. His wife had died in the first attack on Seoul. His children had evacuated to the underground shelters years ago. He hoped they were still alive somewhere. He hoped someone would survive. To remember what humanity used to be. More drones surrounded him. His rifle finally died. The power cell was empty. Tae-ho drew his plasma sword. The blade glowed white-hot in the morning light. He had trained with this weapon since he was a child. It felt good in his hands. The first drone attacked. Tae-ho cut it in half. The second one came from behind. He spun and sliced off its legs. But his armor was failing. The suit's power was almost gone. He was running on pure human strength now. A claw pierced his side. Pain shot through his body. Another drone hit him from the left, then another from the right. He was bleeding badly now. His vision was getting blurry, but Tae-ho kept fighting. He thought about all the humans hiding in the shelters, all the people counting on him, all the children who might still have a chance if he could just hold on a little longer. The end came quickly. 3 drones attacked at once. His sword cut, down 2 of them, but the third got through. Its claw went straight through his chest. The armor cracked. Blood filled his mouth. Tae-ho fell to his knees. The world was spinning. The aliens gathered around him, their red eyes watching him die. He could hear more ships coming. The sound of their engines filled the sky. With his last strength, Tae-ho reached for his communication device. His fingers were shaking. Blood made it hard to see the controls, but he found the right button. The special one he had hoped never to use. Protocol Omega. He whispered into the microphone. His voice was weak, but the words were clear. Activated. The signal went out across the planet. Deep underground, in places no human had visited for centuries, machines began to wake up. Lights flickered on in dark chambers. Ancient computers started running programs that had been waiting for this moment. Tae-ho smiled as the life left his eyes. He had done his duty. He had sent the signal. Now someone else would have to finish the fight. The drones stood over his body for a moment. Then they moved on. They had work to do. The Vextar were stripping Earth of its resources. They would take everything useful and leave the planet dead. It was what they always did. But far below the surface, in a hidden complex beneath Mount Jiri, something was happening. The mountain itself began to vibrate. Deep in the rock, machinery that had slept for hundreds of years was coming back to life. Sensors detected the vibrations. The Vextar monitoring stations recorded the seismic activity. But they dismissed it as natural earthquakes. After all, they had been bombing and mining the planet for years. A few tremors were normal. They did not know about the chambers carved deep in the mountain's heart. They did not know about the pods hidden there. They did not know about the warriors who had been sleeping, waiting for the day when humanity faced its darkest hour. The pods were warming up now. Life support systems activated. Neural pathways that had been frozen began to function again. Hearts that had not beaten for centuries started to pump blood. Inside the pods, 12 figures lay still. They looked human, but they were something more. Stronger, faster, built for war. They were Earth's secret weapon. The guardians who would awaken when all hope was lost. Tejo's signal had reached them. The last human soldier had fallen. But his death had awakened something that the aliens could never expect. Something that would change everything. The mountain continued to vibrate. In the depths of the complex, warning lights flashed. Computer screens showed vital signs climbing toward normal. The revival process had begun. Soon, very soon, Earth's sleeping super warriors would open their eyes. And when they did, the Vextar would learn that humanity was far from finished. The war was about to begin again, but this time, the rules would be different. The first thing Park Ji-woo felt was cold. Not the gentle cold of winter morning, but the deep cold that reaches into your bones. Her body was stiff. Her muscles felt like they had not moved in a very long time. She tried to open her eyes. The lids were heavy. Light flooded in, bright and harsh. She blinked several times before her vision cleared. Above her was a curved glass surface. Through it she could see a white ceiling with blinking lights. Ji-woo was in a pod. A cryogenic pod. The memories came back slowly. The war with the Kalani Empire. The secret project. The volunteers who agreed to sleep until Earth needed them most. She was one of the guardians of Terra. The pod hissed as it opened. Cold air rushed out, replaced by the warmer air of the chamber. Ji-woo sat up slowly. Her body moved differently than she remembered. Stronger, more precise. The genetic enhancements had worked. She looked around the chamber. It was huge. Dozens of pods lined the walls, but only 12 were active. The others were dark and empty. That meant only her team had been awakened. The emergency protocol. A screen near her pod flickered to life. Data scrolled across it in green text. Date. Time. Vital signs. Mission status. Ji-woo read the date 3 times before it sank in. 300 years. She had been asleep for 300 years. The mission status made her stomach turn. Earth, Defense Corps, eliminated, global government fallen, alien occupation active, human population critical. No, she whispered. Her voice was rough from the long sleep. This was supposed to be impossible. Earth's defenses were too strong. The space fleet was too powerful. How could they have lost? Another pod opened with a hiss. Kim Dong-min sat up, coughing. He was a big man with broad shoulders and careful eyes. In the old days, he had been the best demolitions expert in the Corps. Now his body was enhanced like hers, stronger and faster than any normal human. Ji-woo? Dongmin's voice was confused. What happened? Where are we? We're in the mountain complex, she said. The emergency protocol activated. We've been asleep for 3 centuries. Dongmin stared at her. 300 years? That's impossible. More pods were opening. Choi Soo-jin rolled out of hers like a cat. Even after centuries of sleep, she moved with the fluid grace of a born fighter. Her eyes were sharp and alert, scanning the chamber for threats. Yoon Hae-won sat up slowly. She was smaller than the others, but Jiwoo knew that was misleading. Haewon's enhancements were not physical. They were mental. She could reach into minds and touch thoughts. In battle, she was more dangerous than a whole squad of soldiers. One by one, the 12 guardians awakened. Kim So-young, the intelligence specialist. Lee Nari, who could make any machine do what she wanted. Oh Min-ho, who could disappear in plain sight. Each of them had been the best of the best before the enhancements. Now they were something beyond human. Jiwoo activated her command interface. Data flowed directly into her brain through neural implants. The full situation report hit her like a physical blow. Earth had fallen 10 years ago after a brutal war. The Vextar Collective had conquered the planet. Most humans were dead. The survivors lived in hiding. Everyone gather around, she called. Her voice carried the authority of command. The others formed a circle around her. They all looked confused and worried. I have the mission briefing, Jiwoo said. It's bad. Earth was invaded by aliens called the Vextar. Our forces held out for several years, but we lost. The planet is occupied. Most of the population is dead. Sujin cursed under her breath. How many humans are left? The computers estimate maybe 50 million worldwide. They're scattered in underground shelters and hidden settlements. The aliens are strip mining the planet. Dongmin clenched his fists. Strip mining? They're destroying everything? Not just destroying, Nari said quietly. She had been studying a data terminal. Taking. They're harvesting our resources. Metal, water, energy sources. They're turning Earth into a factory. Haewon closed her eyes and concentrated. I can feel them, she said. Human minds, scared, hidden, but alive. There are more survivors than the computers think. Jiwoo nodded. Good. That's something we can work with. But first we need to understand what we're fighting. She called up tactical displays on the chamber's main screen. Images of the Vextar appeared. The aliens looked like giant insects made of black crystal. Their ships were massive and angular. Their weapons fired beams of pure energy. They've been here for 10 years, Jiwoo continued. That means they're established, comfortable. They probably think the resistance is finished. Are we the only guardians left? Asked Minho. Yes. The other teams were never activated. Either their pods failed or the signal never reached them. It's just us. The 12 warriors stood in silence for a moment. 12 against an entire alien army. A few hundred years ago it would have been suicide. But they were not the same people who had gone to sleep in these pods. Jiwoo could feel the changes in her body. Her muscles were denser. Her bones were stronger. Her reflexes were faster than any human had a right to be. Her mind processed information at superhuman speed. She could run calculations that would take a computer several seconds. What are our orders? Sujin asked. Jiwoo smiled grimly. The same orders we had when we went to sleep. Protect humanity, defend Earth, win the war. How do we fight an entire alien empire with 12 people? Dongmin wanted to know. We don't fight them head-on, Jiwoo replied. We fight smart. We use guerrilla tactics. We hit them where they don't expect it. We make them afraid. Nari was still studying the data feeds. Their technology is advanced, but it has weaknesses. They rely heavily on networked systems. If I can get close to one of their communication hubs, I might be able to hack their entire grid. Good, Jiwoo said. That's our first target. But we need to be careful. We can't let them know what we are until we're ready. The Guardians spent the next few hours reviewing the situation. They studied maps of the occupied territories. They analyzed alien patrol patterns. They planned their first strike. Outside the mountain, the Vextar continued their work. They had no idea that 12 super soldiers had just awakened in the depths of Mount Jiri. They had no idea that Earth's real defenders were about to enter the war. The monitoring stations detected the seismic activity from the mountain, but the aliens dismissed it as mining tremors. They had been blasting and digging for years. A few earthquakes were normal. They did not know that those tremors came from ancient machinery coming back to life. They did not know that deep beneath, The Rock 12 warriors were preparing for battle. They did not know that their easy conquest was about to become a nightmare. Jiwoo looked at her team. They were ready, enhanced, dangerous, and very, very angry. "Let's go wake up the resistance," she said. The surface world was nothing like Park Jiwoo remembered. She crouched behind a twisted piece of metal that used to be a car. The sky was the wrong color. Instead of blue, it was a sickly yellow-green. The air tasted of chemicals and death. What used to be downtown Seoul was now a mining pit. Giant machines crawled across the landscape like metal insects. They tore up the ground and loaded the dirt into floating transports. The Vextar were taking everything, even the soil. "This is wrong," whispered Kim Dong-min. He was hidden behind a collapsed building nearby. "They're not just conquering. They're erasing us." Jiwoo watched the alien workers through her scope. The Vextar moved with mechanical precision. They paid no attention to the ruined human buildings around them. To them, Earth was just raw material. She activated her comm system. "Report in, Soo-jin." "Here," came the voice of Choi Soo-jin. She was half a mile away, invisible in the shadows of a broken overpass. "I count 30 workers, 6 supervisor drones, 2 heavy transports." "Nari reporting," said Lee Nari from her position near the power station. "Their communication array is lightly defended. I can get close." "Haiwan in position," added Yoon Haiwan. "I'm reading human minds about 2 miles south. A large group, maybe 300 people." Jiwoo processed the information. 300 survivors in one location meant a settlement, probably underground. The humans were still fighting, still hiding, still hoping. "This is our first mission," she said into the comm. "We need to know what we're fighting. Nari, can you tap their communications without being detected?" "Give me 30 minutes," Nari replied. Jiwoo watched the demolitions expert work. Even from a distance she could see Nari moving like smoke between the alien machines. The woman had always been good with technology. Now with her enhanced reflexes and intelligence, she was beyond good. She was perfect. Nari reached the communication hub. It was a tall crystal tower that pulsed with blue light. She pulled a small device from her pack and pressed it against the base of the tower. The device was her own creation, built during their preparation time in the mountain complex. "I'm in." Nari's voice was calm and professional. "Downloading their tactical database now." The information flowed into Nari's neural implants. Battle plans, resource surveys, population estimates, the full scope of the Vextar operation on Earth. "Oh no," Nari whispered. "Jiwoo, you need to see this." "What is it?" "Earth isn't their final target, it's just a supply stop. They're planning to hit the human colonies next. New Terra, Haven, all of them. Earth is being stripped to fuel their next campaign." Jiwoo felt cold anger building in her chest. The aliens hadn't just conquered Earth. They were using it as a weapon against the rest of humanity. "How long until they're ready to move?" she asked. 6 months, maybe less. They're almost done here." "Then we don't have much time. Get out of there." Nari started to move away from the tower, but one of the supervisor drones turned in her direction. Its red sensors swept the area where she was hiding. "I think I've been spotted," Nari said. The drone moved closer. Its weapon systems activated. Energy began building in its forward cannons. "Soo-jin, can you take it?" Jiwoo asked. "Too far away. I'd have to expose myself to get a clean shot." "I've got it," said a new voice. Oh Minho stepped out of the shadows behind the drone, literally out of the shadows. One moment there was empty air. The next moment he was there, solid and real. Minho grabbed the drone's head and twisted. The alien machine sparked and died without making a sound. He dragged it into the shadows and disappeared again. "Clear," he reported. Nari made it back, to safety. The team regrouped at a safe distance from the mining operation. They found an old subway tunnel that had collapsed in the fighting. It gave them cover and concealment. "Show us what you found," Jiwoo said. Nari activated a portable display. Images and data filled the air above the device. The full scale of the Vextar operation was staggering. They had conquered over 40 worlds. Earth was just the latest. They Follow the same pattern everywhere, Nari explained. Invade with overwhelming force. Crush all resistance. Strip the planet of resources. Move on to the next target. How many ships? Asked Dongmin. In orbit around Earth? About 50 capital ships and maybe 200 smaller craft. But that's just the advance fleet. The main force moved on to prepare the next invasion. Jiwoo studied the tactical displays. 50 ships was still a massive force, but it was much smaller than what had originally conquered Earth. They're overconfident, she realized. They think the war is over, they think humanity is finished. That's our advantage, Sujin agreed. They're not expecting resistance. Haewon had been quiet, concentrating on the psychic readings she was getting from the area. The human settlement is definitely south of here, underground. I can feel their emotions, fear, but also determination. They haven't given up. Good, Jiwoo said. We need to make contact. We need to coordinate with the existing resistance. What about the aliens? Dongmin asked. Are we going to hit them? Jiwoo looked at the mining operation in the distance. The Vextar worked with calm efficiency, secure in their victory. They had no idea that 12 ghosts were watching them from the shadows. Yes, she said. But not yet. First we gather intelligence. We find the human survivors. We learn the aliens' weaknesses. Then we start the real war. Over the next few days, the Guardians became ghosts. They moved through the occupied territories without being seen. They mapped alien positions. They identified key targets. They watched and learned. Sujin found a Vextar patrol route that passed through a narrow canyon, perfect for an ambush. Minho discovered a supply depot that was only lightly guarded. Nari located 3 more communication hubs. Most importantly, Haewon made contact with the human resistance. Using her psychic abilities, she reached out to the mines in the underground settlement. The response was immediate and powerful. Hope mixed with disbelief. They want to meet, Haewon reported. Their leader is someone named Oh-jae-sung. He's been fighting the aliens for 8 years. Set up the meeting, Jiwoo ordered. It's time to let humanity know that the war isn't over. That night, the 12 Guardians gathered on a hilltop overlooking the ruins of Seoul. The city glowed with alien lights. Mining operations worked around the clock. The Vextar never slept. But deep underground, human hearts were beating faster. Word was spreading through the resistance networks. The impossible rumors were true. Earth's Guardians had returned. The real fight was about to begin. The meeting place was an old subway station, deep beneath the ruins of Gangnam District. Oh-jae-sung arrived with 6 fighters, all of them armed and nervous. They had been fighting the Vextar for 8 years. They knew how to stay alive. But they also knew how dangerous it was to trust strangers. Park Ji-woo stepped out of the shadows first. She moved slowly, keeping her hands visible. Behind her came the other Guardians. Even in the dim light, it was clear they were different. They moved too smoothly. Their eyes were too sharp. They looked human, but something more. You're really them, Jae-sung said. His voice was filled with wonder. The super soldiers from the old stories. We're real, Ji-woo replied. And we're here to help. Jae-sung was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. His clothes were patched and worn. His rifle was old, but well-maintained. He had the look of someone who had seen too much death. I've been fighting these monsters since they arrived, he said. We've tried everything. Hit-and-run attacks, sabotage, guerrilla warfare. Nothing works. They're too strong. How many resistance fighters are left? Asked Kim Dong-min. Maybe 10,000 across the whole planet. We're scattered in small groups. Most settlements have 50 people or less. We can't risk gathering in large numbers. What about weapons and supplies? We make do with what we can salvage. Some old military equipment, mostly improvised explosives and hunting rifles. Nothing that can seriously damage their machines. Ji-woo listened to the reports from other resistance leaders via radio. The situation was worse than she had thought. Humanity was on the edge of extinction. The survivors were brave, but they were also desperate and exhausted. Show us what you've tried, she said. Jae-sung activated a portable hologram projector. Images filled the air above the device. Maps of failed attacks, Photos of destroyed settlements, the grim record of 8 years of losing battles. We hit a supply convoy last month, he explained. 12 fighters. We destroyed 2 transport vehicles before their escort arrived. Then they called in air support. Only 3 of us made it out alive. Choi Soo-jin studied the tactical display. You attacked during the day on open ground. No cover, no escape route planned. It was the only chance we had, Jae-sung said defensively. The convoy only came through that area once a week. There are better ways, Soo-jin said quietly. Over the next few hours, the Guardians shared their knowledge with the resistance leaders. Advanced tactics, proper use of terrain, how to strike without being detected. Lee Nari showed them how to hack Vextar communication systems. Their network security is strong but not perfect. If you can get close enough to plant one of these, she held up a small device. You can listen to their radio traffic for weeks. Yoon Hai-won demonstrated her psychic abilities. She touched one of the resistance fighters' minds and shared the mental image of a Vextar patrol. The man gasped and staggered backward. You can see through their eyes, she explained. I can coordinate multiple teams across vast distances. No radio transmissions. No chance of interception. But it was Kim Dong-min who really impressed them. He took a handful of common materials from the resistance supplies: fertilizer, fuel, metal scraps. In 20 minutes, he had built an explosive device that was twice as powerful as anything the humans had managed to create. The key is shaped charges, he explained. You don't need more explosives. You need to focus the blast. The resistance fighters watched in amazement. These super soldiers weren't just stronger and faster. They knew things. They had skills that seemed almost magical. Will you teach us? Asked one of the younger fighters. That's the plan, Ji-woo said. But first we need to prove that the new tactics work. We need a victory. Something big enough to restore hope. Jae-sung pulled up another map. There's a major processing facility about 50 kilometers south of here. They're converting the old Pohang steel plant. It's heavily defended, but if we could destroy it... Show me, Ji-woo said. The facility was impressive. The Vextar had turned the steel plant into a massive refinery. Raw materials went in one end. Finished products came out the other. It was surrounded by defensive towers and patrol drones. How many aliens? Asked Soo-jin. Maybe 200 workers, 50 guards, plus automated defenses. Vehicle traffic? Heavy transports every few hours. Supply convoys twice a day. Ji-woo studied the facility layout. It was a tough target, but not impossible. Not for the Guardians. We'll hit it tonight, she decided. But this is a demonstration. We want the resistance fighters to see what's possible. The plan was simple, but elegant. Oh Min-ho would infiltrate the facility and disable the alarm systems. Nari would hack their communications and create false reports. Hae-won would coordinate the entire team through psychic links. The actual attack would be carried out by Soo-jin and Dong-min, with the other Guardians providing support. The resistance fighters would observe from safe positions. What about us? Jae-sung asked. What can we do? Watch and learn, Ji-woo replied. Your time will come. That night, the resistance fighters took positions on the hills around the processing facility. They had night vision scopes and radio equipment. They would have front row seats to watch the impossible happen. The attack began at midnight. Min-ho simply walked through the facility's defensive perimeter. The sensors couldn't detect him. The guards couldn't see him. He was a ghost moving through solid matter. Inside the facility, he found the main control room. 2 Vextar technicians were monitoring the systems. Min-ho appeared behind them like smoke becoming solid. Before they could react, he had rendered them unconscious. Control room secured, he reported through the psychic link. Nari activated her hacking devices from outside the perimeter. The facility's computer systems began reporting false information. Everything was normal. No intruders detected. All systems functioning properly. Soo-jin entered through the main gate. She moved like liquid darkness, flowing between the patrols. Her enhanced reflexes let her predict where the guards would look. She was always somewhere else. Dong-min went in through the loading dock. He carried a backpack full of carefully shaped charges. Each one was designed to target a specific system: power generators, processing equipment, structural supports. The resistance fighters watched in amazement. 12 people were dismantling a heavily defended facility without firing a shot. It seemed impossible. Phase 2, Jiwoo announced. The explosions came in sequence. First, the power grid. The facility went dark. Then the processing equipment. Massive machines that had run for years suddenly died. Finally, the structural charges. Key support beams cracked and bent. The facility didn't collapse. It simply died. Every important system was destroyed, but the building remained standing. The Vextar workers were confused but alive. Extraction, Jiwoo ordered. The Guardians vanished as quickly as they had appeared. Minho walked out through the front gate. Sujin melted back into the shadows. Dongmin climbed out through a ventilation shaft. From start to finish, the operation took 37 minutes. A key enemy facility had been completely destroyed. No human casualties, no Guardian casualties. The Vextar didn't even know what had hit them. The resistance fighters stared in stunned silence. Then someone started cheering. Others joined in. Soon the hills echoed with human voices raised in triumph. For the first time in 8 years, humanity had won a real victory. Now, will you teach us? Jae-sung asked when they regrouped at the subway station. Jiwoo smiled. Now we teach you everything. The Vextar response was swift and brutal. Within 24 hours of the steel plant attack, massive ships descended from orbit. They didn't investigate or patrol. They simply began destroying everything within a 100-kilometer radius. Park. Jiwoo watched the bombardment from a hidden bunker deep underground. The surface above them shook with each explosion. Dust rained from the ceiling, the lights flickered. "They're not taking any chances," said Oh Jae-sung. His face was pale. "They're killing everything, even their own facilities." "How many people were in that area?" asked Kim Dongmin. "Maybe 2,000 survivors in scattered settlements. All gone now." Jiwoo felt the weight of those deaths. 2,000 people dead because she had ordered an attack, because she had dared to fight back. But Yoon Haiwan touched her shoulder. "Don't blame yourself," she said quietly. "I can feel their minds before they died. They were proud. They knew. They were part of something bigger." The bombardment continued for 3 days. When it finally stopped, the landscape was a wasteland of glass and ash. Nothing moved. Nothing lived. The Vextar had made their point. Then the real nightmare began. Ships landed across the planet. Not the usual transport vessels, but war machines. Massive constructs that towered over the landscape like moving buildings. Harvester Titans. Lee Nari identified them from the tactical database. Their final solution protocol. They only deploy these when they want to end all resistance permanently. The Titans moved across Earth like a plague. Each one was the size of a city block. They had weapons that could level mountains, armor that could deflect nuclear weapons, and they were intelligent. They learned from every battle. The human resistance tried to fight. Brave fighters emerged from their hiding places to attack the Titans with improvised weapons. The results were predictable. Entire resistance cells were wiped out in minutes. "We have to do something," Jae-sung pleaded. "They're killing everyone." Jiwoo studied the situation reports. The Titans were systematically destroying every known resistance stronghold. In a few weeks, there would be no humans left on Earth except those few who could stay hidden. "We need to change tactics," she decided. "We can't fight them conventionally. Even we can't stop those things with small arms." "What do you suggest?" asked Choi Soo-jin. "We use the Terra Protocol." The other Guardians stared at her. The Terra Protocol was their ultimate contingency plan. Hidden weapons caches, planetary defense systems, technology that had been buried for centuries, waiting for humanity's darkest hour. "The orbital defenses were destroyed years ago," Dongmin pointed out. "Not all of them," Jiwoo replied. "The Vextar found the obvious ones. They never found the hidden installations." She activated a secure communication channel that had been silent for 300 years. Deep beneath mountains and ocean floors, Ancient systems responded, hidden bases that had waited patiently for activation. "This is Guardian Prime to all Terra installations," she broadcast. "Authentication code Omega-77, emergency activation authorized." Across the planet, machinery that had slumbered for centuries began to wake up. Mass drivers hidden in the Antarctic ice sheets. Energy cannons disguised as natural rock formations. Orbital defense platforms that looked like asteroids. But activating the systems was only the first step. Someone had to coordinate them. Someone had to get close enough to the Vextar command structure to upload targeting data. "The main command ship is in high orbit," Nari reported. "It's coordinating all Titan operations. If we can take it out, the ground forces will be leaderless." "How do we reach a ship in orbit?" Jae-sung asked. "We steal a Vextar transport," Sujin said simply. The plan was insane. 2 Guardians would infiltrate the largest Vextar base on Earth. They would steal a transport ship and fly it to the command vessel in orbit. Once aboard, they would sabotage the ship's reactor while transmitting targeting data to Earth's hidden defenses. Kim Dong-min volunteered immediately. "I can handle the reactor. Just get me close enough." Yoon Hae-won stepped forward as well. "I can mask our presence psionically. Make the aliens see what we want them to see." Ji-woo wanted to go herself, but she was needed on Earth to coordinate the planetary defenses. It was the hardest decision she had ever made, sending her people on a suicide mission while she stayed safe underground. "Bring them home," Jae-sung said quietly. "Those 2 kids saved my settlement last week. They're heroes." The infiltration began at dawn. The Vextar base was a massive complex built around the ruins of Incheon Airport. Hundreds of alien ships came and went. Perfect cover for 2 more. Hae-won used her psychic abilities to cloud the minds of the security guards. To them, she and Dong-min looked like maintenance workers. Their equipment looked like standard tools, nothing to worry about. They reached the transport bays without incident. Dong-min quickly identified a ship that was fueled and ready for launch, a medium-range transport with light armaments. "Can you fly this thing?" Hae-won asked. "How hard can it be?" Dong-min replied, studying the alien controls. It turned out to be very hard. The ship lurched and spun as Dong-min fought to master the controls. Alarms blared in the transport bay. Other ships moved to intercept them. But Hae-won was ready. She reached out with her mind and touched the pilots of the pursuing craft. Suddenly, their instruments showed false readings. Their targeting systems malfunctioned. Their weapons fired at empty space. The stolen transport broke free of Earth's atmosphere and climbed toward the command ship. Behind them, the planet burned as the Harvester Titans continued their work of destruction. "I've got the targeting data," Hae-won reported. She was linked to every Terra installation on Earth. Through her mind, they could see the exact position of every enemy ship. The command vessel loomed ahead of them. It was enormous, a crystal city floating in space. Weapons bristled from every surface. But it was not expecting an attack from a friendly transport. Dongmin brought them into the main docking bay. Alien workers moved to service their ship. Everything looked normal. But as soon as they stepped out of the transport, the deception ended. A security drone scanned them and immediately raised the alarm. The 2 Guardians were exposed in the middle of an enemy stronghold. "Go," Hae-won said. "I'll hold them off." She unleashed her full psychic power. Every alien within a kilometer radius screamed and clutched their heads. Some collapsed. Others began attacking each other as she twisted their perceptions. Dong-min ran for the reactor chamber. His enhanced speed carried him through corridors that blurred past. Security systems tried to stop him, but his reflexes were too fast. Weapons fired at where he had been, not where he was. He reached the reactor core just as Hae-won's psychic defenses finally broke. She was strong, but there were thousands of aliens aboard the ship. They overwhelmed her through sheer numbers. Dong-min could hear the sounds of battle echoing through the corridors. He worked frantically to overload the reactor. The alien technology was complex, but his enhanced intelligence let him understand it. "Reactor destabilization in progress," he reported. 60 seconds to containment failure. Terra stations are locked on target, came Jiwoo's voice from Earth. Firing in 30 seconds. On the planet below, weapons that had waited 3 centuries finally fired. Mass drivers launched projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Energy cannons sent coherent beams of destruction across space. Hidden missile bases revealed themselves and opened fire. The Vextar fleet was caught completely off guard. Ships that had seemed invulnerable suddenly exploded as ancient human weapons found their targets. The aliens had superior technology, but they had underestimated human cunning. 10 seconds to reactor failure, Dongmin announced. It's been an honor serving with you all. The honor was ours, Jiwoo replied. The command ship's reactor went critical. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. A new star blazed in the sky for several seconds before fading to nothing. With their command ship destroyed, the Vextar fleet fell into chaos. The Harvester Titans stopped their advance, waiting for new orders that would never come. Smaller ships fled toward the edge of the solar system, but the victory came at a terrible price. 2 of humanity's greatest champions were gone. The Resistance had lost friends and heroes. In the hidden bunker, Jiwoo stood before a communication panel. Across Earth, human voices were calling out, settlements emerging from hiding, resistance cells reporting in, hope spreading like wildfire. This is Guardian Prime to all human forces, she broadcast. The enemy command structure is broken. Their ground forces are leaderless. Now is the time to strike back. The real war was just beginning. But for the first time in 10 years, humanity was fighting from a position of strength.